How will AI impact creativity? On this latest episode of the CG Hour, we're going to explore the influence of AI in the areas of gaming, toys, and business. So let's get started and start the countdown. Welcome to the CG Hour. My name is Fanny Dunnigan, and I'm the host of the show, where every episode we come to you featuring industry leaders, business experts, talking about the latest trending topics in business and technology. If you're tuning in, you're probably coming to us through LinkedIn or YouTube. The replay is also immediately available after this as well. So please be sure to introduce yourselves to the people in the comments. Tell people what you do, where you're tuning in from, and I challenge you to connect with 3 new connections in the comments of the feed so that you can build your network as well. So on this episode, we're going to talk all around the AI creative. What is AI's influence on toys, gaming, as well as business in general? And so we put together a research video for you to kind of set the context and share with you kind of where we're going to go with this conversation. So let's play that now. Welcome to the CG Hour. If you're just joining us or just popping in right now, we're going to talk all around the AI creative, AI's influence on gaming, toys, and business. I see in the comments we have a whole variety of people tuning in from all over the world. I saw Deepak from India tuning in. I see Ilya all the way from England, as well as a whole variety of folks in our Dallas-Fort Worth area. So welcome and thank you for joining us. Again, introduce yourselves and connect with each other. Now I want to get to the amazing guests that we've lined up today on this show. They come from a variety of industries across energy, gaming, and toys. And I want to first start off with Mr. Jacob Miles. Welcome, Jacob, to the show.
I am so honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
We are so excited to have you. Jacob, can you give our audience a brief overview of your amazing career?
Absolutely. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and one of those at-risk kids who, through mentors and others, had a chance to become a mechanical engineer and began working at GE, it's an aircraft engine group, and then found my way to toys at Kenner Toys, and have been in the toy and game business ever since. But I've worked at Kenner, Tonka, Sega, Hasbro, and now own my own toy company within Mappy Sports Network.
You have to mention some of the cool toys you worked on, Jacob.
Oh,
let's give a shout out.
Well, when I first started, of course, there was Play-Doh and easy bake oven and things like that. But our big hit at that time was $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman. And then we got a little thing called Star Wars come in. So I had the honor of working with George Lucas on Star Wars, but also on Care Bears and Strawberry Shortcake, Pound Puppies, GoBots, Transformers, and many, many others.
Amazing. I'm literally seeing my childhood flash before my eyes.
Me too.
Brian Wolf is our next guest. Brian, please introduce yourself and share with our audience.
Awesome. Well, also my pleasure to be here today to join the team. My name is Brian Wolf. I'm a Senior Vice President at CG Infinity. I lead our AI data and digital transformation capabilities, particularly focused on energy, oil and gas, and utilities. I've been a consultant for over 20 years, based out of Houston, helping some of the biggest companies in the Fortune 500.
Amazing. And then last but not least, Robert Atkins.
Yep. Thanks for having us. My background for the last 30 years is video game development. I've worked as a creative director in that space and got to really contribute my talents to some really amazing IPs. Duke Nukem 3D, Quake, Star Trek, Counter-Strike, to name a few. And through that journey of working with games, when I started, there were 100 million people playing games worldwide. Now there are over 3 billion. And we spend 1.4 trillion hours a year playing games, and that was really when we started Balance Media Technology, and now I'm the CEO of the company. That was really the big picture vision of what we wanted to do, is how can we take all this engagement and this connection to technology and do more with it and make an impact in the world.
Amazing. Well, thank you all for joining us. I'm going to start right here, Jacob, with you. How have you kind of seen AI impact toy development over the last few years?
Well, I think the biggest thing that we've seen AI today is in robots, learning robots, different types of robots. But it's exciting to see it. Most of them have similar attributes. They can detect and avoid things as they move around, but they also have voice recognition, and some have facial recognition as well, and all of them collect data constantly.
Exciting and scary all at the same time. From your perspective, Robert, what have you kind of seen the influence of AI in gaming over the last few years?
Yeah, so gaming it has always had some form of AI. Usually it's character driven. And in games now, we actually use AI on many fronts. Personalization of the content would be one way. How do we deliver a personalized experience? How do we actually design our games utilizing AI? But I do believe we're just scratching the surface of what's possible with that, with AI within the gaming industry. And I do believe there's going to be a level of adoption that's coming that's going to really change the experience level, both from a user perspective as well as the developer's perspective, in ways that we are just now starting to imagine.
Amazing. And then Brian, from your perspective in business, energy and utilities,
Sure.
how have you seen AI kind of
Absolutely.
evolve?
Energy and utility companies have been using AI capabilities for years, but it tends to be in very, very focused, high impact areas. So utilities use it to manage the grid and load management. But the one area that I've worked with oil and gas clients in recent years that has a almost direct correlation to gaming is image enhancement, whereas in games they use image enhancement to improve the user experience and the visualization of the gaming surface. Oil companies use that same AI capability to help them more cost effectively find where oil is in the ground, on analyzing 3D seismic data.
I'll build on that. That was one of the first pilots that we developed at Balance. Was we were looking at medical imagery that had to do with OCT imagery, which the use case is age-related macular degeneration, which affects over 60% of us. It's a leading cause of blindness. And right now they take, when they take these OCT images, they take 96 images of the surface of your eye, and they try to use AI to determine where the drusen, the rocks or the bumps in your retina are. But they're inaccurate. AI can't actually draw those lines correctly, so humans are having to adjust the image. What we did was we put those images into a video game, and then we had the players simply just play a game where it looks like a satellite image, and they're just blasting a tank. What they're really doing is they're putting an input into the machine learning model. So human in the loop is what it's called. And the human's input now is a part of the variable that is training the AI. And what we showed was went from 50% accurate to 89% accuracy. And why that's important is when you can have that level of precision within an AI, especially in the medical space, you now can take out bias. You can take out the AI's needing to have a human hand correct images and hand correct the AI. And we actually patented that technology. SMU and the Retina Foundation partnered with us, and they patented the technology and with all ophthalmology. So now you can, and that's the very first time that this type of medical work was done inside the Unreal Engine and within a video game. And that's just scratching the surface, because that same methodology can be used for oil and gas industry, can be used for environmental industry as well.
Absolutely.
Incredible. I mean, you all in the audience can really see the wide spectrum from oil and gas and geology to medical research and toys. Let us know in the comments what you're currently using AI for around your creative pursuits. So drop that in the comments below and let us know. So Jacob, as AI is getting more and more popular, do you see a resistance to the adoption of it in the toy industry, or an embracing of it? Like, what is the kind of user adoption around AI in your industry?
Well, the toy industry is historically trend forward. So there's no resistance to adopting it, but there is a high concern for safety, because you're dealing with children.
Yeah.
And so your risks are very, very high. You can't win in court against a child. So those are the main consideration that we have to look at. But in looking at it today and where it's going in the future, I think you're going to see more of the AI coming across different areas of toys. So you have, like we said, the robots and so forth, but it's going to come to dolls. It's going to come to board games. It's going to come to collectibles, and the fastest growing segment in toys is adult toys, is collectible toys. Star Wars plays a big role in that. Marvel plays a big role in that. Star Trek plays a big role in that, But you're going to see AI come to the collectibles. It's going to be a big thing coming forward as well.
I absolutely, fascinated with your career and the things that you've worked on, because, they made a huge impact on my imagination. And that was, the idea of play, when we had our Star Wars toys laid out there and we had seen the movie, and now we're playing out the scenarios and we're building the fortresses and to have the ships and all these things. We would act out the scenarios, and with the knowledge of what we had of the universe, having been exposed to just the movie. But now if you imagine a toy or a figure having the complete, chronological knowledge of the entire universe, and you're able to then create scenarios and play scenarios where it's talking back to you, and you're not having to make the funny voices yourself and all these things. That takes children's imagination to a whole nother level.
It really, really does. And what it does is, all toys are simulations. Even Easy Bake Oven was a simulation of mom, in the kitchen. So all of them are simulations, and all toys are learning tools. So you play and learn. And so with AI coming to things like action figures, as Robert was speaking to, Now you're talking about the opportunity to have the characters interact with the kids and teach the kids about things like the environment, things like getting rid of poverty and positive social impact things. So I think in the toy industry, we'll be looking at how do we have a positive impact on society through our toys and through how we integrate AI into those toys.
I mean, speaking of teaching, Brian, you and I talked about the training, right, for adults and the use of AI simulations. Talk about that.
So, I think in business, AI is still in its very infancy, and it's all about really how do I automate my business processes. If you go look at one of the Tesla plants, it's all machines. It's all very automated, and they're kind of leaders when it comes to using that type of technology. But in a lot of our legacy, traditional businesses, this technology is being used to change the way work gets done, and in doing so, in order to be successful, changing the organization is helping educate the people to use that capability to drive the change or to run your business differently, and doing more things with perhaps fewer people or doing things differently. But I would say one of the key barriers of implementing AI successfully is not only having the talent and skills, but mobilizing your organization to make the changes necessary to get the value out of the technology.
Absolutely. And I see here also in the comments that are coming in, Angela, she was happy that she caught this. Obvious. Thank you, Angela. Sean Cord uses it for animation, uses AI for animation. And I bet you see a lot of that as well, right, Robert?
We're really starting to see how, and having a lot of discussions about the right way to use AI. I consider AI a tool that can be applied to many things. And I don't think it's a replacement for humans or the creative process or problem solving. I think it's just going to enhance humanity, enhance business, enhance the ability to do these things. So if animation is one of those areas that is very time consuming and hard to do and very technical. So I do believe the tool applied with animation is a great use case for how we can advance development and hopefully bring even more engaging, great content to the market faster.
Yeah, it creates whole worlds, right? Much less the characters. I know, Jacob, when you and I were chatting, we talked about the role of storytelling, right, in toy development. How do you have like a use case or a case study of AI in developing stories around your toys?
Well, AI, as we talked about earlier, is always been there at some level. When you have interactive toys.
Yeah.
When every toy, especially when you get to action figures and things of that nature, all have storylines. As the GoBots and obviously Transformers and so forth, all have very strong, robust storylines. But AI can be used to extrapolate on the ideas that our writers have, and can go out and pull stuff. Let's say that you wanted to simulate what is going on and what NASA is discovering on different planets and galaxies and so forth. Well, AI can help you bring that knowledge into your storyline. And in a very rudimentary way, we did that with Star Wars, and Star Trek did it early on. Obviously not with as much as with AI, but AI will accelerate that type of integration of knowledge into products and toys and so forth.
There's an interesting comment from Tracy Phillips in the audience. She said she was questioning whether AI with toys may limit imagination. One example she mentioned was wooden blocks without color increase imagination more than painted ones. I would love to, any feedback or thoughts around that? Do you
I,
think it limits imagination
I
sometimes?
think there's some great possibilities here. Even if done right, I think parents could be part of the loop, right? Like if, hey, there's a lesson that you really, the kids won't listen to us as adults, right? But maybe they'll listen to their toys. And now we could, maybe we could, hey, brushing your teeth is important, or hygiene, and now the kids are, the character little Sue AI doll will say, hey, let's go to the bathroom and brush our teeth, and next thing you know, she's getting her teeth brushed, and that, so there's ways I think that I just think we really need to think outside of the box a little bit more, because it's not the same thing that we're accustomed to. So the paradigms are going to shift with AI, and how we think about that engagement loop with the AI is going to change. And I do believe it has the potential to empower a child's imagination even greater than just how we currently are playing, if done correctly. And what I mean by that is there's AI is, even now as an adult, I use large language model tools and ask it questions because I'm curious about things and I want to understand more. So there's a great opportunity for a learning loop for a child with toys and games where they can now start to communicate and learn about the world, and this creates learning opportunities. And if you do, and outside of the silly example I said about brushing your teeth, if you connected it back to the parental in the loop as well, it gives them an opportunity to maybe understand a subject that their child is asking about or curious about, and this might open up even more opportunities for parental engagement, which is, I think, at the heart of some of the things that we need in society to be solidified.
I could certainly use a reminder through the game towards my son to brush his teeth and shower. So that would certainly help.
Anyone who's raised kids knows this.
Brian, from your perspective, have you seen resistance to AI adoption in the business world, and your thoughts around that?
So I would say, AI capabilities are consistent with a lot of technological changes in business, and anytime you introduce new things, there's going to be resistance to change, and it's from multiple levels. In some cases, it's awareness. Some cases, people aren't trained to take advantage of the new tools or AI, and so I think it's one of the biggest barriers to success is the ability to bring your organization on board so they understand how the tools are beneficial to them, to their future, how they can use it to do a better job. It's ultimately what everybody wants to do, and change is always threatening. And so from that regard, I think the success of AI in companies as it relates to transforming the way work gets done, the change management is absolutely critical.
And opening our minds, like Robert said. Rob Flint in the comments said his boys listen to Xbox, so all we have to do is influence our parental controls through Xbox, right? For now, I want to take a quick pause and celebrate something for our sponsor, CG Infinity. They recently won the Dallas Business Journal's Best Places to Work Award, so I want to play that video of that event for you now. Oh, big congratulations to CG Infinity for that amazing award. So I'm going to shift kind of themes now and talk around the governance of AI, because recently on October 30th, literally just a few weeks ago, President Biden issued an executive order for the safe, secure, and trustworthy artificial intelligence to develop standards, tools, and tests to help ensure that AI systems are safe, secure, and trustworthy. And especially because we're on this topic on toy development and gaming, which our kids and grandkids are going to be on to kind of ensure the safety around that. So Jacob, I would like to kind of hear from you. What do you think the impact of this executive order is going to be in the toy industry?
Well, the toy industry is highly regulated by the Consumer Product Safety Commission. And I think that what President Biden has done is really put in place a communications vehicle for industry and businesses that are developing and using AI, so that there's a feedback loop to the government so they can write regulations and so forth. Because right now, we really don't have any quality standard for AI.
No.
We don't have any solid regulations we can put our arms around in the toy industry to say, you know, this is how we have to do it or should do it to protect the kids. So it's really upon business at this point to communicate with the government, to be responsible in their use of AI, and to be cognizant of, you know, hacking and things of that nature that can access the data that our AI and toys is getting from kids.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, it reminds me of a conversation I had with a friend some time ago that had Alexa, and I was explaining to them that Alexa was listening all the time. And they said, no, Alexa only listens when I talk to it. You know, and I said, well, if Alexa's not listening all the time, then how do Alexa know you're talking to it? And you say, well, what do you mean? I said, well, Alexa's collecting data all the time.
Yeah.
It never stops. You know, so we have to think about toys and the robots I talked about, for instance, as they're interacting with your kid, they're reading facial expressions, you know, they're responding to questions, asking questions, and so forth. That's collecting data. Mm-hmm. And a hacker can get in there and start communicating with your kid, you know, or utilize that data in a harmful way. So we have to be very cognizant of what we're doing. We have to really track what we're doing and report that back to the authorities so that they can write the proper regulations. Mm-hmm. So businesses are going to be the biggest influence of influencing these regulations that Biden is talking about.
Do we trust the businesses to report back?
Well,
properly,
you know, that's always the question. You know,
Yeah.
that's always the question.
Yeah.
But that is the nature of capitalism. Mm-hmm. You know, because the business leads, and that's how we get our leadership in AI. You know, is by our business leading. Government leading in the development of AI and applying it to consumers is not the way we want to go.
Yeah.
You know, we want businesses to lead, you know, and we want the government to be a partner in working with us to protect the consumer.
And then the consumer can police through their wallets. Let us know in the comments for our live audience here, what do you think more governance around AI could look like or would look like? From your perspective, Robert, in the gaming industry, this executive order and how it might kind of influence game development and design?
Well, one executive orders, they only do so much. Without regulation, they're often toothless. But in this particular case, it was a very comprehensive overview about protection and the need for standardizations, NIST standing up more, you know, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, putting capital into government agencies to all have some form of AI objectives, or at least lens, was one thing that I thought was interesting. The thing that I wish was there, and maybe it will come, is a more direct, aggressive approach toward AI. I think we should not steer away. I think we should steer into it. I think I would have loved to hear that our next moonshot as a country is AI. And I would start by putting it in schools. I would start by increasing our education systems and having industry leaders like what your company does and the companies you serve become agents of change within the schools and have them directly influencing the curriculum that is being taught at school level, so that we have a workforce that's prepared for the future, and a workforce that can actually be able to manipulate and create and use AI to be able to build a better future. And I think that it is imperative that we put this into our education system as fast as possible, and make it a paramount government-funded effort. And I would put $100 billion a year toward this. I would not, and I would put the industries on notice that it's their responsibility to be able to help educate the future, and have the directive within the schools be about critical thinking, and have them directly connected and point the AI like a cannon toward, education itself and how we reform it, point it toward the environment, point it toward medical issues, point it toward, sustainable food, and have our young people thinking about these things and the tools in their hands at the earliest possible age, so that when they come out of high school, when they come out of college, they've been using AI and the tools for a decade. And so that they're completely equipped, and they've also been focused on problem solving and how they can make a difference in the world. And that is really, I think, the kind of moonshot and investment that the government needs to make to continue to make this great nation of ours, a leader around the world, and hopefully that will benefit humanity in the process.
Yeah. And Brian, from your perspective, I mean, there are certain references to the energy sector in it as well, and obviously energy ties back to nuclear and all kinds of energy industries around that. What do you think?
Sure. Well, energy companies and utility companies are basic, critical infrastructure to our country, and they've been under constant attack, or they're always under attack. And those companies are responsible not only for securing their physical assets, but securing their networks. And as I said, their primary targets, you might recall 2 or 3 years ago, Colonial Pipeline was attacked by ransomware. It shut the pipeline down for almost a week, shut off the flow of fuels to the Northeast. So those kind of attacks can be, have a tremendous impact, not only on the company, but on stakeholders that consume that energy. But I just think that the executive order really is just highlighting what's already in place by other federal regulations, FERC and the Department of Energy, because they're already required to secure their networks. I think AI, what that allows is bad actors to intensify their attacks with more frequency. And so it just really ups the game for companies to put in place strong, secure controls of their networks and their environments to protect themselves. Because if not, they're going to be vulnerable, and they're going to be hacked.
Absolutely. Robert, you have a fan in the audience, Rain Smith. She said, yes, lean in, not away, and get meaningful AI education in schools ASAP.
Yeah, and I failed to mention, and I know this is an area that you have a lot of passion, is robotics. Like, why do we have robotics clubs and not a complete track about robotics? I mean, the future, we need to stop pussyfooting around with these things that are paramount for our future, and actually make them part of the main track, the main curriculum. And if we can't, and we need to subsidize the knowledge base of our incredible teachers with industry leaders who come in and be able to help them as well, so that these kids are getting access that they deserve, because that is the future we deserve, and it starts with our children, and it's not, we need to stop like kicking that can down the road when it comes to our education system. And that's where I do believe it's not just about where industry is today and how AI is going to affect us. It's about the generations that are coming that are going to live in a completely different paradigm than we do today, and we need to start investing in that.
Yeah, and I would take that a step further in that, in our educational institutions, but also in our community institutions. We can have AI training and initiatives that deal with ESG in the Boys
Define
and Girls
ESG
Club,
for our audience.
environment, social, and governance type issues. But there are programs. We work with Boys and Girls Club and different nonprofits and so forth with our esports leagues and robotics leagues, but there's an opportunity for that training to occur there as well. It doesn't just have to be in the traditional school. It can also be in those communities, in those after-school programs, through competitions and things of that nature. So AI is going to play a big role in the future, and I think business is going to have to take the leadership, because government moves too slow. I mean, there's gridlock constantly there. Don't get me started on them. But
We just have an hour.
So we have to do it. I think the government will respond to us. But business has to lead, and that's not uncommon. When you look at when Microsoft and Google and all those first came along, none of that was taught in schools.
No.
But Microsoft created its own manuals, its own educational materials. People went out and got it and read it
training.
and learned it, and so forth. So it's an opportunity to build our workforce, not only through our colleges, but through apprenticeship programs, through play and learn, type of environments. But a tremendous opportunity to have positive social impact with the inclusion of AI in those activities.
But do you think, Jacob, that there are any safety concerns as far as like these simulations and whether a child's too young to realize what's real or not real? And
oh, absolutely. There is very large amount of data around kids, and obviously, when their brain forms and how it, evolves and so forth. So for instance, we do virtual esports, with the goggles where you're inside the game. Well, you have to be at least 8 years old to participate in that, because the younger kids, their brains are not at a level yet where they can, it creates confusion for them in discerning real from fake after they take the glasses off. So those things are very much needed as far as guidance and at what age kids should be involved in those things. And those kind of studies are ongoing now. I know the medical industry, we've talked with the Brain Institute in Dallas, working with autism and with looking at how all of these things are impacting kids. So we've got to lean into that. Industry's got to work closer with those kind of institutions to make sure what they're doing is responsible.
absolutely.
I will add to that. I've seen the data around this, and I know that there's a lot of people who visionary thinkers who think the gamification of education is we've once again, it's sort of a side thing. It's not fully integrated, and that's really where my CTO Corey Clark and his team at SMU won the Barbara Bush Foundation's X Prize for adult literacy. And how they did it was they made a video game to teach people how to read, and their results were so much greater from impact by showing people not only who were illiterate from reading, but also didn't even know how to use any technology. So they didn't even know how to hold a tablet. They didn't know how to navigate a push touch screen. And that is the type of thing that we need to start to look at, is how can we, with engagement loops that we know work for gaming, that we know work for personalization of experience, that we do know that can show results when it comes to, when I say personalization, I mean not everybody learns at the same speed.
Right.
Let's slow it down for some, let's speed it up for others, and let's make sure that no one gets left behind. And the only way you're going to do that isn't from a teacher who's overtasked and undermanned, being able to try to personalize for every kid. It's going to have to be technology driven. And that is going to be AI driven in the future. And we need to not stop talking about it and start just doing it. And it needs to be fully implemented.
AI is the perfect vehicle for teaching and learning at different rates. Because it can respond to folks that if they pick it up quicker, it can respond and go quicker. If they need a little slow down and repeat it more, it can do that. It can sense that and do that much quicker than a teacher with 50 kids, in the room.
That's right.
So absolutely, that is one of the uses that I think that AI will have.
Yep.
And even in business, right?
Well, sure. Now, I mean, what you're talking about is mass personalization, so the ability to tailor services and offerings and experience, so exactly based on what you need, and which requires them to collect a lot of data about you. And the good news, so that's the balance, is like individual privacy versus personalization. And I've been in the data space for the last 20 years or so, working with companies and all types of business data. And I can tell you, over the last 5 years, with the implementation of Europeans' data privacy rules, California Consumer Privacy Act, and HIPAA, that those rules hold companies accountable. And so there's a much greater emphasis. There's training in companies on how to handle data and how to treat it. And the reality is, with AI, it doesn't need your social security number, doesn't need your birth date to know your profile and your patterns and the things that you tend to, your preferences that you tend to have. And so the good news is, I think regulations are working. It's not perfect, but I can tell you the ethical companies strive to follow those rules and regulations, and but there's still a lot of consumer education and protection required. You've got to be careful on who you provide your data to, right? But as I said, this day and age, like with websites, they allow you to consent. Are you okay if I track this data or not? So you get the ability to choose. And so it's evolving, but the intent is to keep individuals' personal data private while providing great experiences for customers.
Yeah. And I want to pause real quick here to kind of give a shout out to a book and podcast that our sponsor has put together, CG Infinity, and that is all around a topic called demystifying IT. Because these days, every business is a technology business. As you can kind of see here, it all revolves around technology, and IT is not just a cost center nowadays. So give a shout out to that, and I want to play a quick video of the President Sarojit Kanungo, as well as the founder of CG Infinity, Bopi Dal, around their book and podcast. So let's talk about the future now. looking towards the next 3-5 years. Robert, I would love to hear from you because you touched on the use of AI through gaming towards medical research, which I think could, create all kinds of possibilities and opportunities. Can you kind of share a bit about where you see it going for medical research in the next 3 years even?
We started the company, as I mentioned earlier, we wanted to take the gameplay loops and the engagement and actually do something more meaningful with it. While people are playing and having fun, they're actually contributing to something like cancer research. We've created a human platform, it's called Human, and it allows us to inject business data, including medical data, into the gameplay loops. And while the players are playing, the crowd, they're actually helping refine the data as well as create new AI. So we want to empower people to do that. Now the platform is problem agnostic, but if you look at medical industry alone, every 70 days they double the amount of data that's generated in their industry. And they simply do not have enough way to parse that data, utilize that data effectively. A lot of it is not unified. A lot of it is sitting in silos. And researchers in particular are often working alone with the data that they have access to. And if you can empower them by creating an infrastructure that allows them to be able to connect their data in a more meaningful way and even to other publicly available data sets in a more meaningful way, and at the same time have an army of people who are helping them pare down their data or to be able to look in their data and see where they possibly could need to look next. That is how gamification and the human platform can connect all those things together. For me, it's about shortening time to discovery, giving tools to industry so that they can take their valuable data and they can do something with it in a meaningful way, and hopefully create their own AI that can help their business and give them a competitive edge in the marketplace.
Incredible. The possibilities are endless,
It really is.
As soon as you marry the AI, the tech, the research. Jacob, you touched on this idea of licensing that you've done in your career. And I know even at my rudimentary level of using Midjourney, which is a design tool in AI, there's a lot of copying. Right? Like I can say, create an image inspired by Superman or Batman, right? How do you kind of see that playing out in the next few years around the licensing of characters, using them for inspiration, and how do we know something's original or avoid the copying?
Well, characters are IP. It's just like a celebrity. You're creating your own celebrity. And we see now where celebrities are fighting back against the use of their likeness, their voices, with AI. And it's going to be the same for the Transformers or for G.I. Joe or whatever character it is. But AI is creating these variations of these characters. Because all AI really does, it goes out and grabs stuff and pulls it all together and brings it back to you. What's going to happen is that AI will also be used to analyze and find those characters that are using the code that is used to create Batman. And say, oh, well, you've got X percentage of that code in your character, then again, that can become policed by AI as well. So you're going to see AI working on both ends of that. And the same thing, with voice. I think Google just announced with YouTube, and I believe that several of the companies are going to come out with announcements here in the next week or so, where they're putting parameters around how they're going to analyze content that people create and say if it's got 30% or whatever percentage it is of code that belongs to another character, then we can shut it down. Wow. I think the biggest issue is going to be not in the and the creation and so forth is in the policing and protecting. Because they'll be able to figure out what is fake, what is copied, what is 20% copied, 80% copied, and so forth. But then once you find that out, what do? You have to take action against it. And the large companies will be able to do that, but the smaller companies may not have the resources and so forth to do that. So I think that becomes a bigger issue that has to be figured out.
AI to detect AI.
And another area that's going to become increasingly needed and part of this loop is explainability. Being able to AI is like this, black box, right? Like, or the machine learning is a black box. Things go in, the result comes out. We don't really know what's happening inside of that black box. But if explainability will allow us to take a peek in there and see, is there bias? Are these things, how do they generate this result? And that is really super important. We've published some papers on that as well about explainability and the need for it. And I think industry adoption is going to have to get comfortable with the idea that they're going to ultimately be asked and held accountable to explain how their results were found.
Yeah, were generated, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that also leads to the need, as we work to prepare the next generation's workforce, there has to be a basic level of digital literacy.
Oh, of course.
And right now we don't have that in our country. But I think that's very, very critical, and I know that's one of the things that we're working toward at MAP.
What is maybe one initiative that could help that? Have you seen some valuable initiatives that could help kind of spread that digital literacy more broadly?
Building, teaching with the toys, play and learn. Building that, beginning with the kids at a very young age, so that as they learn their, the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s, the response, and at the proper level, bring in that understanding of how these things are done. Sometimes I think we wait too late to introduce technology to kids. We assume, they can't handle it in elementary school. Well, yes, they can.
Yeah.
They don't need
To
to wait to
Robert's
high
point
school.
about, putting in
So we need to
schools.
get that in as early as possible, and then that digital literacy will be built in.
Brian, in the world of business, especially around customer experience,
Sure.
right? Where do you see kind of like the intersection between where AI stops and human comes back in to be involved?
Absolutely. No, I think it's a great pivot. One of the areas, all companies strive to provide great customer experience, and as a result, that's where a lot of the early wins or uses and adoption of AI exists. And kind of examples would be, chatbots, where you can go online and find the status of your order or ask questions about your product. And in many cases, it's AI that's answering those questions and providing those answers. And so for companies, you're trying to provide a fast response, a good experience, and ultimately an answer at a cost-effective way. And historically, you had people, on phone banks, and that were highly experienced that could answer those questions. Now with AI, they can answer 30, 40, 50% of those questions. And so, but ultimately, where I've seen good companies or have adopted AI well is the ability to realize that you've reached the bounds of what AI, you're not answering the question. You've gotten a lot of information and you realize there's a technical problem. Let me put you on hold for 30 seconds and let me bring in the human to then address your specific problem and answer it. So it's a great way that AI can do a lot of the initial lifting or heavy lifting, but you've always got to have the human that can answer the difficult questions. Let's just say.
It's like AI takes care of that.
But it's companies have found they can lower their customer service costs by 30-40% using these kind of technologies.
So as we kind of wrap up. We could easily talk about all these things for another hour. But I do want to kind of go around the table, the room here, and kind of ask each one of you, what are you most excited for in the next few years around AI in your industry? And I'll start with Robert.
I think the work we're doing at Balanced is going to lead the way in a lot of the ability for how gaming can educate, gaming can help solve industry problems, gaming can create new AI, machine learning capacity, and I'm excited that gamers are going to be part of that vision, and they can start to make a difference, because we've trained them for 40 years to be the heroes, save the planet.
That's right.
This is a great, using games to do that is absolutely, I think, something that can be a great narrative for why they can justify all those hours they spend playing games.
Yeah.
No, I think AI is just, it's in the very early innings. Companies and people are just learning what the capabilities are and how to use it. And companies over the last 5 to 10 years have been amassing all of this data in the cloud with tremendous processing power. And now it's really about innovation and how can I use that data to solve problems, to provide better experiences, improve my products, or lower costs in some way. But I just think the future's going to be full of innovation.
Your perspective, Jacob?
I'm excited about AI being able to accelerate play and learn, playing and learning. I'm excited about the AI's ability to have a positive social impact on reducing poverty, agriculture, medical, and to do that through the education of folks. I call it edutainment. So through edutainment, through competitions, we do the esports and the robotics and the coding, and we're now developing an AI competition. But those competitions, kids get very excited about them, and they play, and then they want to learn more. And the teachers right now can't give them more because the teachers don't know. So the teachers a lot of times across different areas don't have a base level of digital literacy. And so we want to play a role in helping improve that. And I think that's very, very exciting, having that positive social impact.
Edutainment, gamification, personalization. These are all endless possibilities. And please, in the audience, make sure you connect with all three of our guests, because as you can tell, we're just touching on the surface of all the possibilities. So thank you, Jacob Miles, Robert Atkins, Brian Wolf. Connect with all of our guests on the panel. And thank you so much for all of your time and contributions. And those questions that we miss, we'll make sure we go back and tag our panelists if there's something that they can answer for you all. And before we wrap up, this is our last show of the year, so of this season. And we wanted to kind of look back at this season that we've come across in 2023, some of the highlights of our previous shows. So let's take a look at that.
People won't always remember what you said to them or what you did to them, but they will remember how you felt after interacting with them.
All of the platforms and strategies and integrations and technology that you put together to ultimately give your customers the choice of how they interact with you and your product creates the overarching experience that you're after.
I think that one of the things that a lot of people can do right now is just get into the tech and start building things with it.
But we as humans do not just rely on pattern matching. We actually actively think. And so if we really want to build truly autonomous vehicles, we have to bring in that reasoning aspect as well.
With social media and how fast news transfers, you want to see that companies have your back at, supporting you where you come from.
I go work at Microsoft, CEO probably doesn't want to listen to me. I go work at a boutique firm, CEO wants to take me to lunch.
Legislation over here that says we're going to go to 100% electric vehicles is going to impact the grid over here with multiple different issues. And it's kind of the waterbed where you press here and all of a sudden it goes up over here, something happens over here.
Generative AI is probably, in my opinion, one of the biggest step change in technology, equivalent to probably what I would say is when mobile phones came in, or before that, internet, right?
As you can see, we've covered a whole variety of topics, and personally, I learned so much just sitting here with panelists and experts, and I hope you have too in the audience. Let us know as we plan the 2024 season, what are some topics you would like us to cover and do a deeper dive into. Thank you so much to you all in the audience for supporting us at CG Infinity, at the CG Hour, our panelists. And thank you all for your contribution. Thank you to all our guests. And as always, our tagline here, people first, driven to transform. We'll see you next year.